movement is sort of going to be like that. That it may not lead to any big political movement, any big political, united thing, but that the people who participate, some of them will move away from that completely enlightened by what they're able to do, and so much stronger and so much more excited about their lives. And so all of my books are about one person, kind of strengthening and developing one person. They're not any kind of prescription for everybody.
And I'll follow that up with a question about Rand. And quoting from the book, what bothered Rand was the fake bullshit nature of everything. Rand also saw how resolving the illusions is crucial to how the child uses any new skills. That child becomes his own authority. He determines the nature of his world, his own vision. And my question on that is, how does your use of satire make the reader or the world out there acknowledge the real beneath the fake? And is that truth-telling to you a moral act? Not a German question.
When I worked at Freightliner, I had an IKEA catalog I kept at my workstation in the factory, and I would pull it out periodically, and it had all these things ordered in priority. I wanted to buy them. I could get this sofa, if I had this much money, I could get this, I could get this. And everybody I knew had the IKEA catalog, and they had worked out this plan, this formula by which they could become an adult by buying this thing and this thing and this thing. And if you could work your way through the IKEA catalog, then you would have a full house and you'd be a grown-up. Because we really didn't have any other kind of a roadmap beyond college. You graduate, you get a fantastically shitty job at the Freightliner plant. The only thing left to do now is to get a bunch of shit stuff. And I started to recognize the fallacy of that. That all of this Swedish furniture was not going to make me a grown-up. And so in a way, starting with trying to identify the phoniness is to try to identify the fallacy that you've accepted without questioning. Accept the fallacy that you live by, that furniture is going to deliver you, that anything is going to deliver you. And then to, in a way, make fun of the fallacy by writing a story about it. Destroying the fallacy, exposing it as a kind of superstition. And that's what I try to do along those lines. I'm trying to think the other fallacies.
That's good enough for a start there. And I'll follow that up with something about Damned. In Damned, Maddie towards the end said, "Death, like life, is what you make of it." And also, "I'm no single narrative. I'm free to revise my story, to reinvent myself, my world, at any given moment. At least I'm not a victim, not any longer." And I've seen a lot of your novels. Your main characters begin as meek and invisible, and then find an inner power and recreate themselves and become both famous and damaged at the same time. And my question is, how do their stories and those arcs differ from or comment on the American belief in self-invention or self-definition, which is, I think, singularly American?
I'm trying to burp silently. See these pants?
I'll accept that as an answer.
The waist of my pants is actually 2 inches smaller than my real waist. So I'm like Scarlett O'Hara at 12 Oaks. It all goes back to Kierkegaard. There is that portion of Kierkegaard where he talks about rotating your pleasures or rotating your indulgences. That you can smoke cigarettes for 1 week and then drink for 1 week and then be compulsively sexual for 1 week And you should rotate these things, because otherwise you're going to get bored of them. And you're going to reach a point, kind of an existentialist crisis, usually around the age of 31, when you realize that nothing is very much fun anymore. And when you reach that point where you have done everything that you were taught by your priest and your teachers and your parents, everything you were taught that was going to make you happy and get you a great career, you got that job, you bought that house, you got married, you did all those things that were supposed to make you gloriously happy, you followed that roadmap exactly. And then around the age of 31, 33, it all starts to break down, and you realize, I'm not happy. At that point, you kind of adopt either a inauthentic way of being, where you decide, okay, I've always been the funny person, now I'm going to be the really bitter, snarky, funny person. Or I've always been the pretty person, so I'm going to be the really super bitchy, pretty person. Or you give up and you realize nothing is going to make you happy, and that gives you the place of nothingness from which you can actually create your dream. And that's where I arrived when I started writing. I was 31, nothing was going to make me happy, I gave up. It was like dying, I thought, I'm dead. I am dead. I'm as dead as I'm ever going to be before I die. So why don't I just go ahead and write? You know? And so it is, you can reinvent and reinvent, but there's an inauthenticity in that reinventing of self until you recognize the kind of lack of value of all those reinventions.
I think Walker Percy talks about repetition and rotation out of Kierkegaard and uses it in the moviegoing, which sort of talks about that same dead place there. And Percy talking about the writer nowadays, which was back in the early 60s, said the writer has to be a former suicide.
Yes.
Has to move beyond that.
I love that line in Heathers. See, his references are so high. My references are Heathers.
I love my dead gay son. I love my dead gay son.
The better one is when Christian Bale comes out, Winona Ryder puts a cigarette in her mouth, and he says, okay, what say I blew up the school? What if say I blew up all the schools? What say I killed everybody? Now that you're dead, what are you going to do with your life? Wow, what an existentialist moment in Heathers.
It's that Zen koan that Dennis Johnson uses, already dead. You must live your life as if you're already dead, right?
See, again, it's got better references.
I'm bringing it down from Percy to Johnson, so it's getting there. And does this also speak to why you use addiction and obsession and mania in your book so often as a metaphor?